Hey Stitches, I'm Sam Cole and today we are going to be doing a really fun idea for a video that I got from another booktuber here on the internet, Jack Edwards. And this is every book that I would save if my house was on fire. I think that this is so fun and interesting and obviously a little silly. Obviously I would save myself and my dog and my family first, but if I had some extra time, these are the books that I would skirt back into the house to grab. I have a lot, so we're just gonna kind of like rapid fire through this, but I thought this would just be like a fun, cute video for today, so let's get started. Number one would be my Othello copy by William Shakespeare, obviously. This is the Barnes & Noble Shakespeare edition. It's so beautiful. I think my partner got it for me. Othello is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. I even got this tattoo because of that. It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve and being yourself. And yeah, I would definitely come back to grab this one. Next is my Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition version of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I think this is so beautiful. I think it really encapsulates like the gothic nature of this book. I think it's so fun because you might think it's just kind of one of those like slice of life novels of this time, but the further you get into it, the more you realize that there's something like sinister going on and it's kind of turns into like a mystery. And yeah, so I would definitely come back as mostly for this cover. Next up we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is definitely my favorite copy that I have of this novel, but I have several, and this isn't even all of them. I have this really beautiful copy. It's a more like minimalist hardback that I haven't actually like read through, if that makes sense. And then I have this one, which is one of the original, I think it's the original cover, but has like the Hulu sticker on it, and this is the one I did read through. And then I have another copy of this same one that I annotated when I read it for the first time in my like AP Lit class in high school. And then one of my best friends got me the graphic novel version of The Handmaid's Tale, and it's so beautiful. I definitely wouldn't recommend like reading this as like your introduction to it. I would definitely recommend buying and reading this after you've already read the story, because they leave out quite a bit in this, but it's a really nice like companion. Yeah, I would come back for all of these copies. The Handmaid's Tale is one of my favorite novels of all time. It's just such a tragic but like poignant representation of like society and societal expectations put on women. I could go on and on and on. I've probably read this book like 5 times, like actually. It's just so good. And I also have several copies of The Testaments, which is the second book in the series, which I also really like, but not as much as the original. But yeah. Next up we have The Priory of the Orange Tree, mostly just so I could flaunt that I finally got through this book. No, but again, the cover is just stunning. I'm sure you've seen this before, but it has quickly become one of my favorite fantasies of all time. I love the female representation, the LGBT representation, so much representation. It's a beautiful sapphic fantasy. Reminds me of like, people describe it as like Game of Thrones, like a feminist Game of Thrones. Yeah, I love it. And it's definitely one of my favorites. It has a shelf, a space up on my favorite shelf up here, and I even made a little art piece to go with it, and so these sit up there together. Almost done. Okay, next up we have 2 Emily Henry books. We have Book Lovers and Happy Place. These are the 2 that I gave 5 stars, and man, do they deserve it. I've just read these like last month and I already think about them and think about rereading them like daily. And so I would definitely take these with me. I would need some like mood boost if my house burnt down, but these are just beautiful. And yeah, more of my complete thoughts are in my reading vlog that I did for Emily Henry. If you're interested in that, I'll link it up here. And then last but not least, I would save my entire Sarah J Maas collection. I know that sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. I tried to think of how to pick just one of Sarah J Maas's series, and I just cannot. They're all so good, and they all hold such an amazing like spot in my heart, and so I'm gonna attempt to hold these. So that includes the Crescent City series, the ACOTAR series, and then of course, let's see if I can do this. Oh, the Throne of Glass series. So catch me running outside my burning house looking like this because I simply cannot live without these Sarah J Maas books. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's simply just not. So yeah, I would definitely save all of my Sarah J Maas books. Oh. I will not be taking any questions at this time. If you haven't read Sarah J Maas, what are you doing? I would definitely recommend starting with the ACOTAR series. I think that's how most people are introduced to her. It is a little bit more like smutty than the Throne of Glass series, but I think it's the easiest fantasy world to get into. It's also not as long. It's only really like 4.5 books versus like 8. And then I would read the Crescent City series last, and just trust me on that. And then I wanted to add a couple of honorable mentions, books that I have on my Kindle and don't have physical versions of, so I can't like literally snatch it out of my burning house, but they're books that mean so much to me, and so I feel like they deserve to be on this list. Number 1 is definitely Crying in H Mart. This book ripped my heart out, just took a hand to my chest and just ripped it out of me, okay? I have never cried as much as I did reading that book, and it is just stunning. It's a nonfiction memoir, and mostly surrounds like a relationship between the narrator and her mother and her family, but it also has beautiful writing and descriptions of food. It made me so hungry while I was reading it, and yeah, it was definitely a sob fest, but if you are brave enough, I definitely would recommend it. Next up, we have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. I just recently read this one, and oh my god, Stephanie Archer is now my auto-buy romance author. All of her books are available on Kindle Unlimited, but I need them on my shelves. The covers are so beautiful, but in Behind the Net specifically, it was just so beautiful, and it had this really great I'm gonna talk a little bit about this. You can skip ahead if you want like no spoilers for this book. This isn't really a spoiler, but it is something that is discussed, but I want to bring it up because I think it's important. That has really great representation of like sexual trauma and overcoming that, and not in like the most obvious ways like sexual assault. It's more just like becoming empowered to use your body sexually, and I thought that was beautiful, and it was something that I hadn't experienced in other books before, and so for that it definitely deserves to come with me out of the fire. And yeah, those are all the books that I would run back into my burning house to save. I think that this was such a fun like book tag that again Jack Edwards made, and yeah, let me know what books you would save if we have any overlap, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!